Hello and welcome back to the NBA DFS Slate Breakdown for November 25th, Monday. We got a nice little slate on our hands. I believe it is 9 games on FanDuel, 7 on Draftkings. They don't have the 2 late games on DK. And we're going to dive right into it right now. I am your host, Tyler Wiemann, at FlatTyler83 on your DFS sites and Twitter. Now, let's get going. Also, come join us at LineStar. $39.99 per month gets you access to all we do, all the props, all the DFS. You get it all one low price. Come join us. Come join the fun. Let's get it going. All right. Starting with point guard on FanDuel, we got 28% owned Jaden Ivey. He's in a good spot versus Toronto. There's no Cade Cunningham, and with that, his floor just goes up a ton. His ceiling goes up a ton. Makes sense that he is coming at high ownership. I mean, 16 shots last game is something I think you can count on those shots being there. Definitely fine. I think he's deserving of being high owned, and I'm going to play a little bit. I might not get up to 30%, but I'm going to have some for sure. I do like his spot. Kyrie Irving, 9K, 26% owned. Look, he hasn't done it yet without Doncic, but he's going to. And this is a great spot. I do have to say that he is now questionable tonight. That just came out. So that is a little worrisome. Definitely have to watch what goes on with him. But if he's out there, I'm going to be playing him. I like his spot versus the Hawks. With him being questionable, Quentin Grimes is doubtful. Those both just came out. I was going to be really high on Grimes, but now Dinwiddie or Hardy or both are, absolutely in play. I would expect one of those to slide into the starting lineup with Kyrie if he's playing. If Kyrie's out, Dinwiddie and Hardy probably both slide into the starting lineup. But all these guards are very interesting. Just wait for news. But Kyrie is definitely one I'd be looking at. He's at like 1.4 fantasy points per minute without Doncic on the court. And at 9K, that's a pretty good price. So definitely interested in him. 9.8K, we got LaMelo Ball, 20% owned. I'm definitely interested in LaMelo. The thing is that just without their centers, without Miles Bridges, he's at like 1.54 fantasy point per minute without those guys. So we've seen, a nice sample size of it versus Detroit and Milwaukee, and it's going to be in a similar spot versus Orlando. He is absolutely capable of giant scores, and I'm going to be riding it while he's hot and while he has this extra usage and a little bit more of a minutes floor. He is a guy that sometimes will dip on his minutes, but right now, they can't really afford that. So he's getting a ton of minutes, and I like the spot. So definitely down with some LaMelo. Now, some pivots. We talked about Dinwiddie. We talked about Porter as with Grimes being doubtful. One of these guys is going to slide into the starting lineup. Whichever one it is almost a free square, with the other one still absolutely in contention as their minutes should go up significantly. Off the bench, Dinwiddie played 28 minutes last game. If Dinwiddie starts and Hardy's on the bench, that could be, Hardy's 28 minutes or 26 minutes. Or vice versa. If Hardy slides into the starting lineup, Dinwiddie could be the guy that still is coming off the bench and playing 26, 28 minutes. So I think both those guys are interesting if Grimes is out. Other pivots, Tyrese Halliburton, 8.4K. I keep talking about him in this price range, and I'm just going to keep doing it. He's consistently in mid-40s and then gives us that 50, 60-point ceiling. And he's in a good spot versus the Pelicans. Pelicans are starting to get a little healthier, so they should be able to stay into this game a little bit better. I am interested in some Tyrese. Now, next, Kevin Porter Jr., 4.6K. I keep talking about him as his minutes, will go up, and he's going to be more productive. These last 3 games, he closed with the Clippers. It's getting him more minutes. The last 2, he has at 26 and 24 minutes. He is probably set on that closing line right now. And if he gets up to 26 minutes again or 28 minutes, he could absolutely break the slate. I think there is going to be a game soon where he goes for 40 and he's still in the 4Ks. So I'm absolutely interested in Kevin Porter at 4,600, and I'm going to be playing a decent amount of him. I don't mind taking this shot. I've been saying it over and over again. It's worked out for us a few times, but I'm still waiting for the big hit. And I want to be early to this one and not late. And this is a spot where we're still a little bit early, but he is gaining steam. People are definitely turning on to that one. Getting over to point guard on DraftKings. We got Ivy, we got Cody Martin, we got LaMelo Ball. Cody Martin should play solid minutes off the bench. He's been at 36, 29, 25, and it's versus the Magic without Banchero. Jalen Suggs is questionable, so it's absolutely a winnable game for the Hornets. He should keep seeing these minutes at 4,400. He's just too cheap, so definitely like it. 10K is still fine for Ball. Dinwiddie, 3,300 is just way too cheap. I'd be willing to pay him or play him. Chris Dunn at 4,500 is fine if you want to go there. And I want to just shout out Kevin Porter, who's only 4,400, and ownership's still low on him. I do think the ownership on Porter is going to come up. People are starting to figure it out. Shooting guard on FanDuel, Jaden Ivey, 28% owned. Kyrie Irving, 26% owned. Malik Beasley, 22% owned, 5,300. Beasley should still be in the starting lineup. When he does, he gets 30-plus points. He has solid upside. That three ball is good, and he should get plenty of shots in this spot without Cade, so I'm fine going back to some Beasley here. Lindy Waters, I'm not doing it. Doesn't get the minutes, just low usage in that starting lineup. Tim Hardaway, he's 4K. If you want to take some shots, fine. But this guy is averaging 0.4 fantasy points per minute over his last 5. Without Cade in the on the court, he's at like 0.3 fantasy per minute. He's been terrible. Now we know from runs in Dallas, he can get hot and put up a huge game. So for that reason, if you want to play him, absolutely go for it. We know he's very hot and cold. Right now, he is extremely cold. He's shot 3 for 20 in the last 3 games. And his minutes, are starting to get a little scary. He's down to 25 minutes a game versus 28 on the season. That's 25 over the last 5 versus 28 on the season. So definitely some worry signs, but there's no Cade. There's usage to be had. And we've seen this guy get hot in the past. So if you want to go there, by all means, do it. There is a path to success. But I just think he's a waste of space. And I have a very, very hard time getting there right now. Brandon Miller, 7,500. Just like LaMelo Ball, this guy is another one that's playing a ton of minutes and just has a huge ceiling when he's playing. And he played 43 minutes the other night, 42 the night before that, 38 the night before that. I think we can count him for 35 plus. And if he's at 37 plus, he starts to look super interesting versus the Magic. So don't mind going to some BM. Tyrese Halliburton, we talked about. Bogdanovich, he played 26 minutes off the bench the other day. He's probably going to be playing 28 tonight. Maybe he stays at 26, but it's a good game environment. It's a game environment I want to attack, and we know Bog has a pretty big ceiling, and at 4,800, coming off the bench, playing 26, 28 minutes, I'm totally fine going there. He just needs to shoot a little, he needs to shoot above his normal, and he's going to hit value, so I like that spot. Porter, we talked about. Grimes, I love Grimes if he plays, but he's doubtful now. And then Hardy, if he's in the starting lineup, he's pretty much a lock for me. He had some giant games last year and can be, like a fantasy point per minute guy when he gets some usage. So definitely a little interested in Hardy. Shooting guard, DraftKings, Ivy, Beasley, Jordan Miller. Miller, 3,100. He got 23 minutes off the bench in a blowout but I don't expect that to keep going. I think he's a 15, 16-minute guy, so just not the upside for me. Dunn, if you want to go there, that's fine. Hardy, we talked about. We haven't talked about Anthony Simons yet, and he is a guy I am interested in. He is 6,100. I know you guys roll your eyes when I mention him, but he just has such a big ceiling when he gets hot. And he's facing the Grizzlies, who allow 40.5 threes per game, which is the second most in the league. And Anthony Simons shoots more threes when he's away. He's averaging like almost 8.5 3 attempts per game when away. If he gets hot, you're talking about a spot where he could hit, 5, 6, 7 threes. And if that happens, he's going to probably be optimal. So I'm willing to take some shots on a low-owned Simons here. Oops. All right. Small forward on FanDuel. We got Zaire Williams, 31% owned. We got to figure out who's going to be in this Brooklyn starting lineup. Could be Williams. We have him at 31 minutes right now. I think he's likely, more 28 to 30-ish, but at 4K, he's got to be interesting. Another aspect that you could go here is Jalen Wilson. He is 3,900, and he could find those extra minutes also and produces at a decent clip. So I think Jalen Wilson's your pivot off Williams, or Zaire could be the pivot off Jalen if Jalen's starting and Zaire is not. Malik Beasley is fine. Tobias Harris, 6,700. I would struggle to get over the 20% own that he currently is, but he is interesting. He's going to pick up more usage. He's at like 1.14 fantasy per minute without Cade, but that it's a very small sample size, for this year. But last year when he was on the 76ers and there's no Embiid or Maxey, he would be right around a 1.06, 1.1 fantasy guy. So I think he can keep up like a slightly over 1 fantasy point per minute average. It's just there's a couple things. He's not totally getting the minutes. 29 last game, 31, 32, 28, and that's my worry. This Detroit rotation, there's a chance it starts turning into like the Memphis or Golden State rotation, and it's just awful. I see some signs of that, and it scares me to play too many Pistons, but if they get minutes, Tobias is in a good spot. Scotty Barnes, I'm good with him at 8,100. Just huge usage, without quickly on the court. So fine going there. Franz Wagner's just too expensive for me. I'm not getting much. Pivots, we talked about Brandon. We talked about Bog. We talked about Jalen. And we will move it on over to FanDuel, small forward, or DraftKings, small forward. Cody Martin, Malik Beasley, Jordan Miller, talked about them all. Najee Marshall definitely needs to be brought up. Played 26 minutes and 30 minutes off the bench in the last two. He should probably get right around the same and can be a little bit of a spark plug off the bench, so I'm fine having some. He is also another one that could slide into the starting lineup if Irving is out or Grimes is out. So that starting lineup's going to be interesting. If Najee's starting over Dinwiddie or Hardy, I would probably just play Dinwiddie as the bench guy and not Hardy. But, we'll see what happens there. Power forward on FanDuel, Tobias Harris, Robert Williams, Brandon Clark. All right, Time Lord, Robert Williams. There's no Klingon. There's no DeAndre Ayton. DeAndre Ayton is doubtful. So we got Robert Williams. He had rest the other day. That's why he was out. He is coming back in. We have seen him max at 25 minutes. So it's very hard for me to want to say that he's going to play more than that. He could easily play less, but as long as I'm putting him at 25 minutes, I'm getting a ton of him. If I put him at 24, I'm still getting a decent amount, but, much less. And if you put him at 24 And then you likely have Dupe Reith, who would be coming off the bench for the other 24 or so, who would start to look interesting. We saw some nice games from him last year. So I think Robert Williams is good, definitely going to be playing some of him, but I have yet to really figure out what I think he's going to play minute-wise. We have him at 26. I think 26 is absolutely possible, but he could easily play less, and that's the only scary part of this. But he is such a good fantasy per minute guy that he can do it in very short, limited time. Brandon Clark, 4,200 versus Portland. 0.88 fantasy per minute over the last 5, 0.91 over the last 20. He can put up points in bunches. His minutes have come up a little bit. So over his starts, 18, 16, 13, but then 22, 21, 19, and 24. If he's getting 22, 24 minutes, I don't mind playing him. It is just a little bit of a scary click, but he's fine. And Scotty Barnes, we talked about pivots. PJ Washington. I do have to say, if Irving is out of this game, I'm probably going to pull off Washington a little bit. His fantasy points per minute have dropped without Doncic and Kyrie, but they are up a lot with just Doncic off the court. So very interested in PJ, and this is a spot that I've been attacking the last couple days. I simply put is he just hits the rebounds hard and is so much more involved in the offense without Doncic on the court. He's averaging like 13.3 rebounds over these 3 games without Doncic and has been in perfect lineup every single time. Totally fine going there, and his minutes are up. So I like the spot for PJ. Definitely fine going there. Power forward on to DK, Robert Williams, PJ Washington, Najee Marshall, fine with all of them. For Charlotte, Saluin should enter the starting lineup, but he really hasn't done much all season. He's at 0.65 fantasy points per minute. I have a hard time thinking that he turns into like a, 1 fantasy per minute guy in this spot, but his minutes should be there. 24, 26 minutes, I think is probably likely with how beat up that team is right now. So at 3,300, it's a little interesting. All right. Draftkings or FanDuel center spot. Robert Williams, Brandon Clark, Nikola Jokic. I love Jokic in this spot. 12.5. He's just pricey. 2 65-point games in a row, but without Aaron Gordon, he just does so much more. And these 80s and mid 70s are absolutely possible in a spot that they're probably going to want him on the court a decent amount to slow down Cat. And he's playing big minutes lately. I am absolutely fine with having some Jokic. Diabiti, I am fine going here if you want. I struggle a little bit with the spot due to the fact he's not scoring. He's literally just rebounds, steals, blocks, and that is all. If he can score 10 points somehow and still hit the boards like this, then he can give you a big score. But it just, there's been 2 games this whole season that he's doing it. He's averaging 3 points in 18 minutes. So I a little worried about that. And with how this offense is, it's literally just, Miller and Ball pretty much doing everything. So I think he is kind of relegated to that role unless he gets some easy buckets to rebound and defense. So I just don't think a ceiling's there. A usable score is there. Not kill you score can definitely happen, but I just worry ceiling wise. If he scores 10, he needs to score 10, and then there's a possibility. Watford 3,900 is a little interesting. Claxton, his minutes are kind of up in the air. There's no Simmons, so Watford is one of the guys that could take some extra minutes there, and he becomes a little interesting. We have him at 21 minutes now, and his fantasy point per minute is 1.05 over the last 5. So a little interesting, but it's taking a chance there too. Other pivots, Miles Turner, 6,700. My only worry here is minutes. If he's playing 28 or 30 minutes, I don't think he gets there. If we get a 33, 34-minute game plus from him, there's a giant ceiling at 6,700 versus a Pelicans team that's not that great inside. So absolutely a little interested there. And then Cat at 9,400. The guy's at 1.57 fantasy points per minute over his last 5. He's at like 1.4 or 1.38 or something like that on the season. I struggle to not want to go there at 9.4K. So I think there's a big ceiling. Also, the best way to attack this Nuggets team is get Jokic in foul trouble. And the way you do that is you go at Jokic with a good offensive center, which Cat is. So I'm interested in Cat for sure. Now, over to center on DK, we got Jokic, we got Williams, we got Diabiti, and Zubac at 7K. Without Mo Bamba, I do think this is a game where Zubac's minutes could go back up to that 35, 36 area. And if that's the case, he looks okay. It's just versus, tough defensive team, the Celtics. But if the Clippers are able to hang in this game, it's because either Harden or Zubac or both are going nuts. So definitely a little interested there. And that'll do it for us today, guys. Nice little Monday slate here. Good luck. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And we'll be back tomorrow. We got a lot of content dropping in the last 2 days. Or the 3 days of this week, getting ready for next week. You guys have a good one. I'll see you back later. Peace.